Good morning, everyone. This is Ron. It is Sunday morning, the first day of the year, and let's say Happy New Year to everyone. Uh, Yesterday, I thought I was very excited about starting the new year, and I have, as always, high expectations for this year, for each day that we log on and the things we see. And today is no exception. I feel good about today. Uh, so let's get started. Let's see if we have any questions or comments, anything that was said on yesterday. Again, yesterday we it just fielded questions. I think the highlight of it was at the very end where Pastor kind of summed up where we are, kind of putting an end to the year and even talking a little bit about our expectations for this year. So, any questions and or comments to get us going?
This is Barbara. Have, I just have an observation. That
Okay.
something that I read. Um, Brazil's president is swearing in a new president today,
Uh-huh.
supposedly a leftist or rightist, was Bolsonaro, who was uh, created in the image of Trump, I guess, and created himself in the image of Trump. And Bolsonaro arrived in Florida on Friday because he wanted to avoid handing over his sash. That's the presidential sash they put on
Yeah.
during the services. He wanted to avoid that, um, and he's not yet recognized the victory of Lula. Um, and his supporters also protested because they thought the election was stolen. The one guy tried to set uh, place a bomb, uh, a truck with a bomb in it at the aviation fuel station at the airport in order to try to sow chaos for a military coup. So it all sounds so similar and
Yeah.
uncanny that he fled to Florida, part of the United States, but he fled to Trumpville in Florida. So I just thought that it's just interesting.
Wow.
Nothing new under
Yeah.
the
I'm sorry. What you say, Pastor?
There's nothing new under the sun. All of them do the same thing.
Yeah. Wow. This is a new year, and like I said, I'm excited about it. If you guys don't, thank you, Miss Barbara. Have any other questions? I have one, and this is one that I wanted to talk about yesterday a little bit, and we got into it a bit. Pastor mentioned it, but I want to talk about it in detail a little bit. Now, want there was a small article that came out about the alignment of the planets, and how rare that is, and we talked about it. As I said, Pastor mentioned it yesterday, but I see a lot of things in that, and I wanna kind of put a question out there, and even talk about a couple of paragraphs in that article, and I want you guys to sum it up for us, and just tell me what you see in this, uh, if this resonates with you. For one thing, it seems like a lot happened at the very end of the year. It almost seems like it was trying to get in before the calendar year ended. You had the queen that died at the end of the year, the death of the pope. Uh, we talk about the seasons coming back and the winter coming back in a very uh, uh, blusterous way, just kind of coming in and looking extremely violent, but being what winter is supposed to be, and kind of bringing the seasons back in that way, because that's something we prayed about. Uh, Pastor mentioned on yesterday the water table and how what effect the winter has on those things. So all those that violence even has something to do with bringing balance to the land. Uh, I want to tie that up with what we discussed and what we were looking at in 2011 and those expectations, that manifestation that we talked about on yesterday, how that looks, and does the planet alignment have anything to do with that? Let me find that article. There's a couple of things I wanted to point out. Then I'm going to hush and let you guys talk about one of the second paragraph in the article says the most common alignment is when three planets line up on one side of the sun for many days out of the year, followed by four planets for once a year, while five planets aligning happen every 19 years. All 8 planets are aligned occurs only once in about 170 years. So this is not a coincidence as I see it. I think this means something, and I want to see what you guys see there. The other paragraph, the 5th paragraph in this article says the planetary alignment brings into visual transmission a sense of balance within and in the cosmos. While so many of us have been feeling the intensely chaotic and penetrative energies of the recent solar flares, and it has in parentheses, and the sacred masculine energies they offer, this alignment seems to offer a contrasting grounding frequency. So what do you guys what do you see in this? Anything? Like I said, I think all of this happens at the end of the year. December has been full of stuff for a reason, and I think it has everything to do with where we are. So anybody, pastor, anybody who sees something here, let's talk about it.
Yeah. Good morning, Ron.
Yes. Hey, George.
Good morning, everyone. This is George in Philly. I really appreciate, what you shared in reference to the alignment, of the planets. And I first, was basically looking at the year 2023. And as we look at those numbers, it lines up or it totals the number 9. And it says that the spiritual meaning of number 9 is the number of cosmic consciousness. It is a spiritual doorway to awakening of the higher self to the alignment of all that is, was, and ever will be. It says the spiritual blessing of number 9 opens one to a higher awareness of self and purpose. And it says divine purpose reveals itself to you as a pass through this doorway. You have wanted to know your individual unique purpose and are ready in your mind, body, and spirit to embrace and follow your higher calling and to teach the ways and the path of enlightenment. So I think in terms of reading, the article and just being able to share, my spiritual, awareness is to be able to appreciate, a time for everything. And in Ecclesiastes, it talks about it in chapter 3. So I think it's just an exciting time, to appreciate all that we have gone through in 2022 and in 2023, having the first day to begin to see the manifestations, of our desire, or the creative desire is to bring loving kindness, balance, and harmony, to the universe. And so I think the cosmic consciousness is something that relates to me with the planets being in alignment, so above, so below. So again, I think we're living in an awesome and tremendous time of, sharing, who we are. I just wanted to share those thoughts.
Well, thank you, George. That's very insightful. And I agree with it. Lines up perfectly. for the sake of people who don't know how you arrived at 9, though, I'm taking it you're looking at January 1st and then adding the 20 and 23, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. 1 plus 1 is 2. Then we have 2, which is 4. Then we have 2, which is 6, and 3, which is 9.
Okay. Just want to make sure everybody understand how you arrived at that. But thank you. Very insightful. Yeah.
No, I appreciate that, Ron, and I think that it all ties into, our consciousness as we appreciate where we are. There's 4 stages of consciousness: an unconscious mind, a simple consciousness, a self-consciousness, and as you're speaking now in reference to cosmic consciousness in terms of us just being in harmony, with the universe, with the cosmos, with nature. And so, again, I just wanted to share those thoughts. So thank you for letting me share that. I'm done, unless there's any questions.
I have a question.
No.
I have a comment.
Okay.
Yeah. What George said is a mouthful in relationship to that article that you referenced, Ron.
Yes, sir.
Be referenced because that article itself, the primary message in the article, speaks to the alignment of the planets as being, being an opportunity for us meaning humanity, to be aligned within ourselves and to experience a higher place of enlightenment and to receive from the universe more than we've ever received before in terms of enlightenment. And when George injected the meaning of number 9 and explained how he got to 9, that in itself speaks also to the same thing. So I think the message that we have received from the article and from George's explanation of what he saw with the number 9, the message to us is this. This is the first day of this year that, that enlightenment, that energy from the universe is available to us in a way that it never has been since we started this journey, which means that we have opportunity for mankind, to have the spiritual experiences that we have desired for humanity from the beginning. And the way I see that is the year itself is 7, and the first month and the first day of the month is 9. It makes it 9. So the 7 is the completion for humanity. The journey that we have embarked upon to get to a place of manifested balance, that journey is complete. And all of the material things that we've seen, or all of the physical manifestations that we have alluded to in order to explain spiritual truth, are no longer necessarily needed. The journey from this point forward is going to rock our world, because what we're beginning to see is an opportunity to understand what the true nature of the scriptures are. A couple of weeks ago, I made reference to the words that Jesus spoke, being the same words that were spoken by Haru 2,000 years prior. This year and going forward, we are going to be shown the metaphorical nature of every individual, of every word, of every incident in the Scriptures. We are going to be able to see with a clarity that there is absolutely nothing in the Scriptures, from Moses crossing the Red Sea to Jesus opening the blinded eye. All of that has a message that we have never seen yet. We thought we had. The journey that we have traveled has given us the Eastern meaning, the Eastern understanding of the words. But now that puzzle, that word puzzle from the East, is about to be assembled so that we will see the totality of the spiritual nature of it. We will see that the crucifixion of Jesus really has nothing to do with the cross. We're going to see that resurrection of a man has nothing to do with the cross, as well as the creation of man itself has nothing to do with the physicality that we have been taught, or the physicality of it that we have taught ourselves. We are in a totally different place now, or different space, I should say. And it's not going to be easy for a lot of people to wrap their minds around what we are being shown. Some will probably fall away, if that's okay. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. However, the overall benefits from understanding this is going to speed up the manifestation of balance that we have been searching for. Barbara spoke, and in speaking, spoke to the Brazilian dilemma. In doing so, Barbara was describing a type of energy, and that energy is centering itself in this place where the whole of humanity is to be changed. What I mean by that is this. The attitude of the Brazilian president, who did not want to give up his office, is no different than the other tyrants around the world, like the guy in Hungary, I can't think of his name, Erdogan, I think it is. But anyway, all of these people have been in this country connected with Donald Trump, which means they have been connected to the energy in this country. The depth of racism, the depth of misogyny, the root of it is deeply embedded in this nation. And that is the reason these forces are centered around this nation. And because of that, it gives us a place of focus for change to take place, for balance to be seen. But it does not come without paying a price. And the price for balance, for the manifestation of it, is the purging of all of our beliefs about what we thought was true, especially the purging of our limited understanding, what's in the Scriptures. Because the Scriptures themselves are more than 2,000 years old. They're more than 4,000 years old. The words in the Scriptures they tell a story that is tens of thousands of years old. Now we are going to begin to see it. of the major things that we miss and we don't just look at in depth is when it talks about the Magi looking for the birth of Jesus, looking for the baby Jesus, or whatever, however it says it. The Magi, meaning the magicians, meaning those who are one with the universe, are searching for the essence of balance for humanity. That root ball from which all desires for balance grows. Thank you.
I want to add that Ron said something about it's been about 170 years since this alignment was seen before. And the gematria of 170 is 8, 1 plus 7 plus 0. And so it all just, it's just all just laid out before us, what you just said, Pastor. The regeneration, the new beginning, the new start, that's what this is all about. So whatever they tried to squeeze into, as you said, Ron, squeeze into December, everything after that is a new start and a new beginning. And so the issue is the potential for the balance for mankind that Pastor speaks of is so much closer than it's ever been in any lifetime, not just ours, in any lifetime.
Amen. Excellent. And I, you know what, I appreciate your saying that, because I was looking at something, the number 8, and I was trying to think, why was I looking up the number 8? And you're exactly right. That 1 and 7, I did not, my mind did not come back to that. But thank you.
As well as the 8 planets. 8,
yes.
It's just 8 is repeated all the way through.
Yes. Oh. Excellent.
I have a question.
Okay.
It's kind of getting back to what you were saying, Ron, about seems like things were happening really quickly, getting to the end of the year. And I kind of made that same comment to Richard about it seems like everybody wants to get it in before the end of the year. But my question is, also 12/2022 is 9. So everything that George was saying, did it start in December then? And maybe that's why it felt like a lot of things had to happen before the end of the year, or anyway, that's my question.
I love the question, and I hope it will give everybody a chance to answer it. If you guys remember, several months ago, we talked about the age of Aquarius, and I thought about that too as we were going through December, and what does a transformation look like? Because we haven't seen anything like this. So, yeah, I don't think it was. This cuts off this as walking through a doorway. I walk out of one room and into another. I think that transformation has been a gradual thing. It's been very expedient, but something that we could clearly see and recognize. So yeah, I would say yeah, but please, by all means, everybody else, if anybody else has any insight.
Hey, this is Nick. Yeah, I wanted to add something. I think when we talk about a transition to the age of Aquarius, or the sort of general transition that we're in, one of the things that happens, that I'm sure we've mentioned before, is that the sort of rigid structures of the older system begin to break down. And in the transition period, there's a lot of sometimes chaotic, sometimes peaceful, but there's a lot of sort of fluidity that is a result of the move from one structure to another structure. And I think that fluidity can be found in many sort of different aspects of human life, including the way that we think, including the way that we conceptualize of ourselves, including just the way we run our society, etc. And included within that is the sort of gender identity, something along the lines of not a crisis, but like a period of sort of exploration and potential confusion that is also part of this fluidity of transition. And I just wanted to mention that as just part of the sort of external expressions, what we can see of the internal reshifting of human consciousness, or the sort of the average of human consciousness in the earth. And that's what I believe is happening. I'm done.
Go into that a little bit more, Nick, if you don't mind, that shift of human consciousness. Break that down a little bit more. George
Sure.
talked about the 4 levels of consciousness as well. So help us to see that, because I feel what you're saying, but let me make sure I understand it.
Sure. So subconsciously, sort of across the humanity in general, we hold on to various things. It's just the way we conceptualize of the world and ourselves, etc. And when we move through certain periods or cycles of time, we, I believe, are exposed to different energetic influences that cause that subconscious sort of sense of reality to become more fluid, or in the first part of that process to break down, so that something new can be built, as I'm sure we've spoken about before. But it represents in some cases, sort of throwing into chaos many different aspects of human life, as we have sort of built it and defined it on this planet thus far, or currently. But the opportunity, as I'm sure we've all heard that supposedly Chinese proverb, "in chaos lies opportunity," the opportunity that fluidity presents is the complete sort of refounding of our way of life on new principles and new patterns of thinking. And that new principle or new pattern is one that is going to be and is more based in a spiritual understanding of reality. And we're already in this process. Like, it has been going on, and we have been in recognition of it, and it's going to continue. But I think what we sort of describe as the transition of the age to the age of Aquarius, whenever that is supposed to happen, I forget. But the reason that age has to do with water, especially has to do with, well, one of the symbols of it is the man pouring out the water, which is also in the Bible. And as we know from the culture at that time, that was not something that men did. That was something that women did. So you can see the nature of that fluidity being present even in that symbol. It is the sort of masculine being more in touch with the feminine, and vice versa. And so one of the things I think we see in the sort of more sort of chaotic aspect of that is some of the supposed gender identity crisis that the news likes to talk about. I don't think it's a crisis, but it is something that is a result of the sort of anchor being pulled up, and it's the ship is sort of wandering around before it knows where else to find an anchor point. If that the metaphor makes sense. That will resolve itself, and I think that's anything to even really worry about. But I just wanted to point that out as an example of something that happens to the collective psyche of human beings as we move through this period of transition. And I think we can get more into that if you would like. But I just wanted to point out that all of these things that we're seeing are all part of this transition, are all part of our changing energy environment. And what we have been doing and will continue to do and are going to see the sort of results of is the refounding of that anchor point for the way in which we relate to ourselves, to each other, and then the society that humanity builds on top of, or builds from the point that it is anchored to.
Nick, as you talk, what it reminds me of is something Ron and Pastor pointed out. When we were talking about Abraham, and every place Abraham went, he left a what is it, a stone or something to mark, or to as a marker, if you will. And so when you talk about the fluidity, it reminds me of also sound and sound energy, and the sand and the way it changes the sand depending on the octave of the sound. And so for this period of time, it sounds like it's an opportunity to set another point, if you will. When you liken it to a ship which has been drifting, but now can be anchored to a certain thing. So it all sounds like another period, an opportunity to anchor around all of these new spiritual principles that we are being shown, because they haven't been lost. We just didn't know where they were, or what they said, or what they meant. So it's like it all ties in. And in 50 years, who knows where the next marker will be in terms of the change of consciousness of humanity, in a sense.
Right. And thank you. It's a good description. And I would say that, well, the unique opportunity presented by this next turn of the wheel is that humanity is at a place where we relate to each other on a planet-wide scale. And so I think our collective destiny is somewhat more intertwined than it has been in the past, though similar things have happened in the past. But whereas it may have ended in sort of destruction for certain groups of people, et cetera, in the past, now I think, though it does appear chaotic during the transition, on the scale of humanity as a whole, I believe it is moving towards harmony. And it is, if you've ever heard that, I forget exactly where it comes from, that phrase, it is a day not followed by night. That is where we're headed. We don't need to do this sort of cyclical, oh, we get it right for 1,000 years, and then for the next 5,000, we're confused again. we don't need to do that anymore. I don't think. I hope not. But I think that is where we are headed.
I agree totally with that, with both of you, matter of fact. And the when Barbara brought up, mentioned rather, Moses and stones, and how they were left as a reminder. Suppose that there's no such thing as a Moses or a stone in the way see it physically. Suppose the story written is saying that when you are in search of self, what's drawn out of you are the principles that are foreign to the way humanity is supposed to interact with each other. And once you see that, it becomes a landmark for you. And that stone that's mentioned is that landmark for you. And whether or not that landmark be a landmark of stability for what you've been shown, is up to you. It's not a mountain, it's a stone, because a stone can be moved or a landmark can be changed. But whether or not it is changed is up to you. The landmark that we have been given is a landmark that doesn't exist, and that landmark is heaven. That stone that Moses gave as a symbol of that in the next generation that we pass this way, that landmark for us has been Christianity. And that landmark appeared to be stable when it really wasn't. The stability of what we have now is understanding spirituality, not so much a type of spirituality that was brought by a man named Jesus. Rather, it was symbolized in a story about a man named Jesus. Suppose all of that is true. And what we're beginning to see is that this idea of change is carrying us to another dimension of understanding. And that dimension of understanding is totally different than anything we thought to be true. Even the stories in the scripture that we have explained and talked about are simply stories that would allow the principles to live beyond the age when they were given. Suppose that is true. And suppose that whether it be the Quran or whether it be the Veda, the stories are the same, and none of them are about people who existed, who were doing these things. Story about how we are to change, to bring humanity to balance. Why do I say that? There has never been balance in humanity since humans were brought into this earth realm. But the stories about bringing balance have been the same. Even before there was contact with Europeans, there was no balance in the earth. And the reason it wasn't is because in order for balance to be in the earth, all people must be involved in it. And there were kingdoms that appeared to be stable, appeared to represent rural stability, but those kingdoms were not aware of even the existence of Europeans. And without being aware of the existence of a people, there is no real stability. We are going to rewrite the understanding of all of these principles of stability. They can't be rewritten unless those who are writing the story are open to an understanding that stretches them beyond any place they have ever experienced, stretches them so much so until those who hold on to what they've been told about the scriptures would disassociate themselves with the writers of the true story. Yet they will at some point experience it, and in experiencing it, they then will see the value of understanding that the people in the scriptures only exist in our minds. They don't exist in our souls. The only thing that exists in our souls are the messages. There are no proper names in our souls about the scriptures at all. Those proper names are there just to be able to pass the story along until there are a group of people who are willing to look at the cosmic meanings of everything and to embrace a sense of alchemy that has been rejected for so long. Suppose that's what this is all about.
Pastor, before you go on, go into alchemy. Explain that a little bit, please.
Alchemy is the belief and process of being able to change metals into, help me somebody. I know what it is, but I can't bring the words together. I'm seriously asking for help.
Lead into gold. Sorry.
Go ahead.
And
lead into gold.
Lead into gold, and I can speak more about that meeting, but you can continue. Alchemy, sort of in this era of history, I believe, comes from Egypt anyway, and it is the transmutation of the self, symbolized by the changing of lead into gold. So it is the pressing the coal, or the coal into a diamond. It is the transmutation of the spirit as a result of going through the crucible of material experience. And there are a lot of sort of magical, metaphysical things associated with that, but even the word alchem, I think is like an Arabic sort of influenced word, but it means the science of chem, or that which is of chem. Chem being the ancient word for Egypt. Alchem, that which is of chem, the science of chem. And that's also where you get chemistry. Anytime you see chem, it's coming from Egypt, or Kemet. And it has to do with the sort of science of spirit and the way in which the investigation into the nature of the self translates into understanding the material world, because these are connected in one and the same thing, and the material world is an expression of the self. Thank you.
Thank you. So suppose that is where we are, and that's the reason for these stories in the book that we call the Holy Book. And the reason we call it that is because it has been set aside for a specific purpose. And the purpose for which it was set aside was not a purpose of going to heaven or to hell, or creating a heaven or a hell, but embracing the reality that if we do not learn how to purge ourselves of what of this, the immaturity of understanding spirituality, we will never be able to be the gold standard for what we were created to be. And I don't mean us on this phone, I'm talking about humanity, period. Because that this is all true. And that may sound confusing, and I hope I'm not. I guess the bottom line of what I'm saying, and what I need to say rather, I need to stop struggling to pick my words and just say what I need to say. Suppose that we are supposed to peel back the layer, not layers, but one layer. When we truly peel back the layer of religion that covers the true nature of the writings, as a cataract covers the lens of the eye. When we remove that religious cataract from what's written, we don't see Jesus, we don't see Moses, we don't see any of the principles that are written about. What we see is the alchemy of humanity. What we see is the transmutation of humanity. What we see is gods in this earth who are here for the purpose of bringing into existence the same energy in this earth as the energy is in the universe. The energy of existence of which I speak is the awareness that the energies are the same. Because if you're not aware of it, to you it doesn't exist. And it does not function the way it is supposed to until we become aware of it. And we become aware of it as teachers, as listeners, as receivers. Others become aware of it because it is so strong in the macro until their search for something to replace the nothingness that they are accustomed to will cause them to become a magnet for this transmutation of their lives as well. If there are questions, I see the picture. I see what's happening. I see where we are going. I do better with explaining what I see if there are questions about what I've said. So please ask the questions, make the comments, add to, detract from, whatever it takes. I want us to see this clearer today. Why? Because this is the day that we have crossed the other end of the bridge. And now it is time for us to not just be the spiritual entities that we were created to be. We are also to be the dominators, the directors, the molders, the deliverance of this material world from the ignorance of the mind and that has been given to us for the purpose of us being able to have something to compare to our souls so that we can see that the mind was never designed, was never given, was never created in order to guide humanity. The mind was created so the choices could be made. The soul is the entity that is to guide humanity, but humanity has not been influenced by the soul. It has made every attempt to use the mind to influence the soul. So everything that we talk about from this day forward will not be things that we will be able to see in a physical way. It will be totally spiritual. It would be totally the way that that things were seen from the beginning of these stories. The reason we don't see them the way we do now, the way we should rather, is because when we came in contact, we meaning the whole world came in contact with Europeans, we were naive, and we allowed them to change the words that we used to make descriptions of things. For example, we allowed Europeans to take advantage of our naivety and tell us that the name of our God was not right, and our methods of being submissive to our Creator was pagan, and our beliefs about spiritual things meant that we were ignorant, and that we had no culture, we had no wisdom, we had no understanding of anything except what they told us. And if we did not agree with what the words and the culture that they gave us, then that meant that we were less than them. So all of these things now are being brought forth to us so that we can begin to see without seeing the physical body, without seeing the physical world, which means that we are actually recreating the physical world and the physical essence of these bodies, because these bodies were not designed to be permanently attached to the earth, or to be so attached to the earth that they could not move into the other realm, the other dimensions. Now we are at a place where we are beginning to be shown the methodology for entering these other dimensions, thus bringing about a change in the earth that combines what we call what's above, so is below. It combines them so they are one and not two separate entities, meaning that they are not a solid physical world and they're in a separate spiritual world. Both are the same, and that is shown in the story about Jesus walking through the wall. Has nothing to do with Jesus walking through the wall. What it's saying is this: you are as I am, meaning you are as the Creator is, and you are a combination of both of them. And because of that, you are not so attached to this earth until you cannot walk through the material walls. You cannot move from one realm to the other at will, as did Jesus when it said that he was resurrected. Resurrection is not about Jesus coming out of a tomb. Resurrection is about us reviving the truth about what everything is. Resurrection is about understanding the transformation of lead to gold, meaning that the lead in itself is heavier, is denser. However, the gold in its purest form, it is red, and that red represents the blood of mankind. Yet, in its representation of it, is malleable. You can mold it much easier than you can lead. So all of these things about the resurrection of Jesus is not talking about the resurrection of a man. It's talking about the resurrection of the essence of creation itself, and the God in this earth, who is no different than the God that we say is in the spiritual realm. When we truly become one with one who created us, as did Jesus. When we say resurrection, Jesus was not the man being resurrected. It's a story telling us when you become one with the one who created you, when you are one with a boom, when you're one with the universe, then you move as does the universe. You as does the wind. You are able to move from place to place, from dimension to dimension, without having to even think about it. And I hope that I'm not confusing you. Are there any questions or comments, or am I making sense to you? But this is where I see we are.
As you were talking, I thought about archaeological digs in various parts of the world, and even here in the States, where you're digging up so much stuff that has been piled on top of the history of a people or the location of a people. From a spiritual perspective, when Nick mentioned, I think he said something to the effect of alchemy being transmutation of the spirit as a result of going through the crucible of the material experience. It's like all these material experiences are like the stuff that's been piled on top of us and have obscured who we really are, has covered up who we really are, and it's only as we go in, take that inner dig, that inner journey of uprooting, if you will, all of those things that have been the baggage that we've attached ourselves to, that others have tried to attach to us, the labels that they've attached to us. It's like we're taking that inner journey to get to that essence, and that essence of all of that stuff that's been piled on us, whether it's words we've been called or called out of our names, or physical stuff that we thought we were. We find that's not us at all. That is not who we are at all. And it's when you talked about resurrection being recovery, that's what that recovery to me is. That recovery of the truth of, wow, I've got this weight of all of the stuff that's been piled on who I thought I was, which made me feel like I was an individual, separate from, isolated from others. Once I got rid of that burden, it helped me to see that I am not an individual separated from, apart from, isolated from another. I am one with everyone. And so it's like a burden lifted, if you will, that recovery of truth in essence. Thank you.
Barbara, this is Ron. I love what you said, your assessment of it. One of the things I thought about, and I was listening to what Pastor said, that transformation, I see myself as a wrestler, and I fight with everything. And I felt myself rather, just letting go. Stop fighting everything. Stop fighting the name. Stop fighting those principles that's been piled on you. Just take a breath and release. And just let it go. And so I can feel it. What I felt it as, I saw it as a freeing kind of thing, just kind of releasing and just kind of letting it go. And all those things that have had a value to you, and a lot of it is pride. You don't like the names, you don't like the way people see you, or the box they put you in, and the inhuman part or the less than part. So your pride holds that up, and you fight for it. But just release it, just let it go. That's kind of what I felt when part of what was being said. So thank you.
Let me ask you a question. How many of you were able to see what we're talking, or able to see what we're talking about? in terms of the crucifixion not being about a man who was crucified, but a story about what crucifixion really is and resurrection. That's not rhetorical.
I can.
Okay.
Yeah,
I can see it.
What about the the others of you who
Yeah.
not?
For me,
I
say
see it.
Jesus.
I'm asking primarily, I guess, for those who are on the phone who are not facilitators. Can you see this?
I can see it.
Okay.
I can see it. Yes.
Thank you.
Same here.
I beg your pardon.
I see it.
Okay. It's important that we see it. It's very important that we see it because we don't get a clear understanding of resurrection, then we won't get an understanding of our crucifixion. I'm sorry, if we don't get a clear understanding of crucifixion, we will have a clear understanding of resurrection. That which was crucified was the true nature of who we are and the principles that were to guide us, bring what we call balance into the earth. Now, mind you, each time that there is a crucifixion mentioned, it is mentioned in relationship to a European invasion, a European attempt to destroy culture and rob people of their language and their beliefs. Jesus was not first to be crucified, and I know you know that. But we have been taught to look at it from the Roman crucifixion. The term crucifixion was also used in Egypt during the invasion because it wasn't the death of people, it was the death of righteousness. It was the death of the truth that has been given to us from the beginning. That's what crucifixion is about. And when it talks about the tomb, the stone being moved from the tomb and the resurrection of Jesus, it's not about that. The true understanding. Yes?
I'm so sorry to interrupt your train of thought, but I got off track. You said the crucifixion was about the death of the truth that we had been given.
Yes.
So you mean the truth that others gave us from their perspective of what truth was, right?
Oh, the word death was the wrong word to be used. There was an attempt to kill the truth.
Okay, thank you. That clears me up. Thank you.
Thank you for correcting me. There was an attempt to kill the truth. That's what crucifixion is about. And if it were about the death, then there would have been no resurrection. There was an attempt to kill the truth. That's what crucifixion is about. The truth about self. The truth about being one with Elohim. The truth about being Elohim. And if you really think about what we are taught and who it came from, we are taught that we are not elevating. So that's an attempt to kill who we are. That's what I'm talking about. The moving of the stone is moving. This attempt to kill it was sealed, and it was sealed in our souls. And that stone is the mind that dominated the soul, and everything that we believed was in our mind, and our minds translated it for us. And when that stone was moved, it gave passageway for us to hear from our souls. And when we heard from our souls, that is when the resurrection took place. We realized that the tomb was empty because it was spiritual and it could never be contained by any efforts to silence it forever. And this idea of a man coming out of that tomb is speaking to the truth of who we are being revealed to us again, not for the first time, but again. And with that revelation, decisions have been made that this will never happen again. We will stay the course. When we made the assertion that we were going to stay on the wall to make sure that humanity did not have to start over again as they did in the ice ages, we were we were making an assertion that never again will there be an attempt to kill truth be allowed. We will not allow that to happen regardless of what it takes. This is what the resurrection, the crucifixion, the burial, and the resurrection is about. The whole idea of the ascension is not about people standing around looking at a man go into the clouds, disappear in the quote-unquote heavens. It's not about that. No. This ascension speaks to what happens to humanity, what happens to any of us who make that decision and stand by it regardless of what we have to go through. It is saying that once you make that decision, once you are resurrected, once the truth is resurrected within you, you are sent to a place of enlightenment that mankind is unaware of. And because of that ascension, you are obligated to return to the place of your beginning so that you can enlighten others, so that they can follow the pathway that you have laid out before them. And that is what we mean when we are talking about putting things in the macro. This is the year of our resurrection. This is the year of our resurrection. The other years have been the years of understanding the nature, what this is all about. Now we are going to see the reality of what it's all about. So now we are in this realm, but we are not of it, because we have experienced an ascension into an era of enlightenment that the earth has known about but had not experienced. That experience is now. Earth knew about it because the story told Earth about it. through the story of Jesus and others prior to Jesus. Now the experience of it is in our purview. It's in our hands to bring this experience that we are having others so that they can have the same experience. This is the merging of consciousness. Not about the earth groaning to be free physically, about the earth consciousness, knowing that it is in a place of bondage because of the way it has been, the way that it has been treated at the hands of those who sought to destroy it. Earth consciousness being bound in our soul, seeking to be birthed so that it can be so intertwined with the nature of spirituality until they both become one. That's where we are. We are at this place. And the consciousness that was dominant in the earth, consciousness that has done everything it could to destroy the reality of life, reality of spirituality. And what we are seeing is the demise of that consciousness. We call it racism, we call it misogyny and all the other things. What it is catalyst that forces the entities that we are to purify thought by virtue of allowing our souls to guide us along this journey as it receives direction from the one who created us all. Any questions about that? Or does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Resonates
Yes.
deep.
We are the gods of this earth. We are the gods of not this physical earth, the gods of earth consciousness. You cannot dominate the physical earth if you cannot dominate earth consciousness. And the domination of earth consciousness is to bring it to a state of righteousness that it has never experienced before. And that state of righteousness is being experienced as we speak. Grateful for the bridge that was laid out before us to cross into this place, that we could occupy this space that no longer has to expose anything, but now has the obligation to bring everything to a place of unicity, a place of being one, as our Creator is one. I'm done. Thank you.
Esther, I'd like to enlarge on what you said.
Sure.
I don't feel like we just occupy the space. We have burst beyond the space. We're not bound by space any longer, or time any longer, if that resonates.
It does. We and I'm very much aware that there are those who are listening and those who will be listening as they pull it up on YouTube. I understand the difficulty in processing what's being said and wrapping your mind around it, holding on to it. I understand the difficulty in that because the space where this truth resides has been overshadowed by what we have been told the truth is. So the reality of what is being said has been pressed down deeply, so deep in us, until it feels like what's being said is blasphemous. But we have to keep in mind the source of what we have been taught. The reason for us having been taught by that source. Yes, it's difficult, but it's not impossible. The source of our teachings about what is called spiritual is a source that taught us this for the purpose of putting us in bondage. Not realizing that they too are in bondage to themselves. And we are their source of freedom. And the only way that we can be true to this journey of freedom is for us to abandon what we have been taught in favor of what we know the truth is. If the truth is not what we are being shown, then why was it and why is it such an effort put forth to hide that from us? Why is it that we were forced to accept Christianity or die? Why is it that the beliefs of Islam has become just as deadly as Catholicism, just as deadly as Christianity? Why? Because all of it has been fed from the same source. It has drink from the same fountain. And it's time for us to allow that well to run dry so that the wells, truth, the wells that were dug by those who went before us can be revived. When it talks about the wells that were dug as Abraham traveled, it's not talking about that. These wells is talking about the spiritual essence of truth being in so many diverse places until regardless of where you travel, you will be able to drink from it. If you were thirsty enough, and our thirst was not being quenched in the places where we were. So we searched for the fountains so we could drink from them. And when we drink from those fountains, it is at that point that our Creator laid a pathway for us to come together, not as individuals, but collectively, for the express purpose of doing what we're doing and being who we are, so that others travel the same way. We are no longer digging fountains. We're no longer digging wells, rather. We are the wells. We are the wells. It is impossible for anything spiritual to be real and true if it is devoid of femininity. There is not one religion on this earth that males did not dominate, did not contaminate, did not use for its advantage. When femininity birthed an understanding of spirituality, it never becomes a religion. It simply remains what it has been birthed to be, spirituality. From the same womb that humanity emerged, so did spirituality. And it refused to live in this space, being continuously dominated, unheard, manipulated, abused. That is the reason we see now an upsurge of femininity, especially the African woman, being in these places of change. We are the source from which Astacia Abrams draws so that change within the African could take place. Because the African is the most despised of people on this earth. Without realizing the African is the most needed person on this earth. Without the African, there is no life. Because the life came from that womb. We must embrace the truth of these things and understand that the response to what has happened to us is not anger, it's not hatred. It is love, and the reason it is love is because they don't know what they're doing. They have no idea that every attempt to destroy the African is an attempt to destroy themselves and the earth. We stand strong where we are. Not African based on race, but African based on life. Life itself. I am very grateful that our Creator put dysfunctionality in our midst. And that dysfunctionality was unseen for thousands of years. But when it was seen, that dysfunctionality dominated functionality because it was so naive. And now we have opportunity to be the creators and dominators of righteousness in this earth. Questions, comments? I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys, for your presence.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments, guys? This seems like an excellent place to take a pause. So we will do so until tomorrow evening. I do have one quick question. When is the California call? That the first Sunday?
No, not this Sunday.
Next week.
Next week.
Oh, okay, good. All right. Well, an excellent day, guys. If you have any other questions or comments, we'll continue this tomorrow. Okay, tomorrow at 6. I hope you have a great day. Enjoy your day, and look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Evita.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank
Happy
you.
New Year.
Okay.